God was in the midst of it all, Part 2. Finding God in the darkness. Although Kayla had heard about God before, it was during her darkest moments that she truly began seeking Him. She whispered simple prayers before falling asleep, asking God to protect her, comfort her, and give her strength. There were no dramatic miracles, but she noticed small signs of hope, a kind word from a stranger, unexpected peace during difficult days, and the quiet assurance that she was never completely alone. God was slowly revealing Himself as the one constant presence in her life. Growing up before her time. While other children spent their days playing freely, Kayla found herself carrying responsibilities far beyond her years. She learned to sacrifice her own desires for the sake of keeping peace in the household. Childhood slipped away as maturity took its place. Though she sometimes envied children who seemed carefree, she refused to complain. Instead, she quietly accepted each challenge, believing that every hardship was preparing her for something greater than she could yet understand. The strength nobody saw. People who looked at Kayla saw a quiet young girl, but they had no idea how much she was carrying inside. Behind every smile was hidden pain. Behind every act of obedience was a child longing to feel accepted. She became skilled at hiding her emotions, convincing others that everything was fine even when her heart was breaking. Yet God saw every tear she cried in secret and every prayer she whispered when no one else was listening. The beginning of hope. As Kayla entered her teenage years, something began changing within her. She realized that her circumstances did not have to determine her future. She started dreaming about building a different life for herself, a life filled with peace, purpose, and genuine love. Though she still faced many obstacles, hope slowly replaced despair. She didn't know how her story would end, but she believed that God was writing every chapter. Little did she know that the greatest battles, and the greatest victories, were still ahead. Searching for acceptance. As Kayla entered her teenage years, she longed for a place where she truly belonged. She worked hard to please everyone around her, believing that if she did enough, someone would finally see her worth. Whether at school, at home, or among friends, she often placed the needs of others before her own. Yet no matter how much she gave, she still felt unseen. God was teaching her that true acceptance would never come from people but from knowing who she was in Him. The weight of responsibility. Life continued to demand more from Kayla than from most girls her age. While others enjoyed carefree days, she carried responsibilities that stretched her physically and emotionally. She learned to cook, clean, work hard, and solve problems on her own. Although these experiences made her strong, they also left little room for her to simply be a child. Through every burden she carried, God was quietly preparing her to handle greater responsibilities in the future. A heart that wanted to love. Despite everything she had endured, Kayla's heart remained full of compassion. She believed in the goodness of people and dreamed of one day finding someone who would love her sincerely. She imagined building a family filled with peace, honesty, and kindness, the kind of home she had always longed for. Little did she know that before she could experience healthy love, she would first have to learn the difference between love and emotional dependence. The first heartbreak. Kayla eventually opened her heart to someone she believed genuinely cared for her. She trusted, hoped, and dreamed of a future together. But those dreams came crashing down when betrayal entered the relationship. The disappointment cut deeper than she expected because it awakened wounds that had never fully healed from childhood. Heartbroken and confused, she questioned whether she would ever be enough for anyone. Yet even in her tears, God remained close, reminding her that He never breaks His promises. Learning to stand alone. After her first heartbreak, Kayla became more guarded. She realized that healing could not be found in another relationship. Instead, she began spending more time alone, reflecting on her life and searching for answers. Though loneliness was difficult, it became a season of growth. She discovered strengths she never knew she possessed and began realizing that sometimes God separates us from people so we can hear His voice more clearly. The voice she could not ignore. There were moments when Kayla felt a quiet tugging in her heart, urging her to pray, forgive, and trust God more deeply. At first, she ignored it, believing she could solve her own problems. But each time she relied only on herself, she found herself exhausted and discouraged. Slowly, she began to recognize that gentle voice as the leading of the Holy Spirit. The more she listened, the more peace she experienced. Storms that built strength. Life did not suddenly become easier because Kayla prayed. More challenges came, and each one tested her faith. Financial struggles, disappointments, broken friendships, and unanswered questions threatened to overwhelm her. Yet every storm strengthened her character instead of destroying it. She learned that faith is not proven when life is easy but when we continue trusting God through the hardest seasons. Leaving home forever. At 19 years old, Kayla made one of the most difficult decisions of her life. She packed what little she owned and walked away from her father's house. There was no celebration and no dramatic farewell, only a quiet determination that she would never live there again. Although she continued to visit her father from time to time, she never spent another night beneath that roof. It was the end of one chapter and the uncertain beginning of another. Leaving home forever. At 19 years old, Kayla made one of the most difficult decisions of her life. She packed what little she owned and walked away from her father's house. There was no celebration and no dramatic farewell, only a quiet determination that she would never live there again. Although she continued to visit her father from time to time, she never spent another night beneath that roof. It was the end of one chapter and the uncertain beginning of another. Little did she know that the greatest chapter of her life was just beginning. Coming soon. Like, share and subscribe for part 3.